Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts with my second Christmas card in my Christmas in July series. Today I've dug out this crafting set. This is from a magazine. I do apologise, I did not keep the cover, so I can't tell you where it's from. I think it's about 2 years old. I bought this when it was on sale, so it had been out for quite a while by then. And it was one of those things, I saw it advertised, I think on Craft Stash, and you got magazines half price, so I just went for it. I've just recorded a video, but I don't think it'll be posted by the time I'm posting this, where I explain that I don't do this anymore. I don't buy things just because they're cheap on offer. But this one's actually quite a nice set. I just have never used it before. It comes with these shaker domes, and there are 4 of the round ones. There are 3, I think it's 3 anyway, of these square ones. Having said that though, the square ones contain the sequins and the glitter, and because I had stored it for such a long time, this one's really distorted, so I'm not sure I will use this one. But these 2 seem to be okay. By the way, they were stuck down with some clear tape. I had to peel that off. I think this one I could use a little bit of spirit alcohol on top to get the residue off, but I think they'll be okay. These I think are fine. It's just one of them that's got a bit of an indentation at the bottom. I don't know if the camera shows that. I can use that and just put an embellishment at the bottom here, or even at the top. If I make it like a bauble, then that'll be fine too. These are actually quite sturdy. These seem to be a bit softer, these square ones. So this was the sheet that held all these domes. So there is a bit of residue here. I thought about using this picture, but I might have to stick something on here, so I'll have a look. Then it comes with 1 sheet of clear acetate. It's quite a heavy weight, but again, I've got indentations, I think you can just about see that there, of where the shaker domes were, so I might have to just use some areas that are okay, but it's not too bad. And then it comes with some pattern cardstock, and I quite like these stripes, but I can use them for other seasons. And then 2 pieces of this here, that's quite neutral. I can see myself using that actually with different cards. And then there are all these toppers. Let me just move them up a little bit. So some of these are like snow globe toppers, and you've got some backgrounds for the shaker elements, which are really nice. So very plain backgrounds, and then I can embellish them myself. There's some lovely little animals that I can again use in other cards, and probably will do. And then there are some sentiments. Again, I can reuse these on other cards. So because my idea is I will only show you 1 card today, but I want to use all these up this year. I do not want to have any more stuff in stock for Christmas, because it takes up space and it makes me feel guilty for not using it anyway. So I have popped out 1 of the snow globes here, but then I thought I'd better show you what I'm planning to do with this. So it just looked like my camera wasn't focusing. Oop, just zoom in a little bit. So the first thing I do when I take out toppers like that, and they pop out really easily, is to cut these little bits off that they were stuck down with. So I'm just using my round nail scissors here, perfect for that, and I really just cut them off. I've seen Natalie from NB Crafts, I think she calls herself. She uses a tool like this and goes along edges when she cuts things off, so they look a bit neater. So you can do that if you're fussed. I will do the rest off camera now. And then there are all these elements that I could pop out. There are some rounded sentiments that can pop on here, but I will choose that later. So what my plan was, and what I will do, is to have this on the front of the card, but I would like the shaker element to be on the inside and just peep through. I think this might be a nice variation. Obviously you don't have to do that. You can have this shaker element on the outside and just a plain inside, but I thought that would be quite nice. And I have found in my stash a circle die that is big enough to hold this shaker element. I have actually tested it, and I would suggest you do that too. So I've just cut it from some scrap cardstock, and this fits through perfectly. So what I'm going to do now, which I haven't quite decided on yet, is choose a card base, a background. I don't know yet whether I want something plain or whether I will choose something patterned. I'll have a little think and then I'll show you how we create it. So I have made up my mind which elements I would like to use. For my cardstock, I'm using a sheet from this paper pad. I bought that in January in the sales. This is a 200 GSM cardstock from, it's called First Edition paper. It's got some lovely foiled papers in there, but also quite a few plain ones, and this is why I bought it. And I have cut a strip that is 12 by 4 inches, and I've scored that at 6 inches because I want a top folding card. Also, I'm being mindful, although this is a sort of really not legible, readable script, I think there is a direction to it, so this is definitely the front. But because this is not really heavyweight, I decided, sounds like thunder outside, might be the neighbour with a motorbike. I decided to back this up, but rather than cutting another strip of that length and just folding it as well, and then the fold not working, I have cut these two apart. So I will stick them on individually, and if I have to, it will naturally overlap a little bit. I will have to cut off a slither on either side, but I think this will be better than trying to have two folds, and because I sometimes compete, and this will fold a bit more nicely. You could also put these layers actually on the outside. They don't have to sit on the inside, so you could do this. I might actually do that because there will be less bulk on the fold this way. So for the background, I have chosen this one. This is a sort of a green theme, but this one sort of is a turquoise, so that goes nicely with it. But I just noticed that these round bits, they are smaller than the edges here of the shaker domes. Just zoom in a little bit there. So I decided to cut another circle slightly bigger than this that I can glue the shaker dome on. I think that will be fine. And I've also cut with the same circle and the circle I've chosen for the shape of the dome to cut a frame that I can pop over this to make it look neat on the inside. On the outside, obviously, we've got this element, so that's not a problem there. So, what I will do now first is I decide where my what's it called, snow globe will sit. I think I will have it right in the middle. Or do I want, no, probably a little bit further at the top. No, because I have to think what I do with the sentiment, but I think I will just use this sentiment, so I don't really need space on the top or the bottom. So I think I'll just place it in the middle here. So, and I will just mark with a pencil where this is going to go, and I'll just do it now on the single sheet. I will cut it through on the other one in a moment as well. So I'm just making sure, sorry there, it's in the middle here. I think that'll be fine. I hope I can see the pencil afterwards, otherwise I can use my white pastel pen, but that's fine. So now I know where to align this circle die here, just about anyway, and yeah, so that'll be fine. So I'm sticking this down, and I like to stick my tape here, sorry, brain fog again, on the bit that I'm cutting away, because even though this is low tack, I sometimes find through the pressure of the die cutting machine, sometimes I have some residue there, or even some marks from the tape. So, but when I put this through now, I will open the second piece as well. I will put these through together. I could glue them together actually. I think I might do that. So I will put some of my magic glue on there. Actually, I will stick this down, give that a minute to dry, and then put it through my die cutting machine. But as I said, for open as it is here, just showing you this. So I will put this against the score line, but not over. And once I've cut it through, I'll come back and show you how we attach the shaker element. So when you stick your papers together, don't do what I just did. And I'm wondering, why do I see this cardstock? I obviously meant to have the script on the inside. So never mind, I'll leave it as it is now. I think this will be fine because the theme goes together like this. And I decided not to put the other panel on the outside here, because I will actually put a white panel on the back for my personal greeting, so that will be enough to strengthen it. So yeah, another brain fog moment, but never mind. I always keep these things in so you can see what can go wrong, one of those. So I can basically now glue this element on here, and I will pop this one out, stick it on. Sorry, I'm going off camera again. Sticking this on here, so that's an easy job really. Just so I need to cut this a little bit more as well, so I can do this off camera. The other thing I will do off camera now is to assemble this shaker element. So I will glue this onto the mirror card. I will use my collal glue just because mirror card sometimes struggles to absorb the bookbinding glue. I will stick my bears on here. I was contemplating at first whether I want a bit of dimension behind the bears, which would be nice if I used some glitter, but I decided to use these snowballs here. They are from the works. Again, I bulk bought those, didn't use them all. This year I want to use them all. That's why I'm making these shaker elements. So what I will do, I will also stick this here onto the frame with collal glue. And once I have done that, I will put some snowballs in here. No, first thing first, I will use my anti-static powder tool and try to get rid of some of this static in here. I don't know if that works. I've seen people do it, but I know that these snowballs can be static, but I've made a shaker card before. I think I've got one actually on my channel, one of the very first videos, and it worked fine in that one, so I hope it won't be too sticky, and the height should work for them. I'll give it a try in a moment. So, and once I've glued this down here, I will then, I'll probably pop in for that, attach some red tape or some other tape and go all the way around. I think I'll come in for that and show you that. I have glued this on now, but I had to make a little change because I had this other polar bear here, but I realised if I put them on this snowy hill, they will overhang and then I can't stick this down flat. So I just cut one of them off. I'm sure he will be used, maybe even on the outside of the card. That would be a nice idea, so he won't be left out. I have put a few of these snowballs in. There is a spot here that is really static. I've used my anti-static powder again. I think it made it worse. I've also made sure there were a few bigger balls. I didn't realise they're not all one size. I picked those out so they're not too high. And I decided against the red tape now because I glued down this frame anyway with the collal glue, so I thought I might just as well do that. So what I'm doing is just putting the glue here on the edge, just a thin bead. You just want enough. So, I mean, the balls won't fall out anyway. If you use glitter, you have to be very mindful. This actually moves quite a bit. So if I'm casting a shadow, I try not to put on any light. I've already spilled half of these snowballs on the floor anyway. So, and I thought where it's actually static, I put that on the top of the sky, so at least the polar bears won't be covered. By the way, I had a bit of residue here where I had stuck that polar bear down. I tried to get it off with my glue eraser. It didn't work perfectly, but I think it'll be fine. I was contemplating whether I want a bit of glitter in there as well, or whether that would make it worse. I think I'll leave it like this. So I'm just pressing this down now, making sure this should fit perfectly. And I'm going to pinch it as well, making sure it adheres. Problem is, because this is a stitch die, it might not grab fully to start with, but I'm trying not to move it around. What I will do though is I put something heavy on top, like an acrylic block, or I've got a tile here. So, and I won't be tempted to move this about, because if I do that, then the balls might catch the glue on the side. So I'm going to leave this to dry now for 20 minutes. I'm going to cook dinner now. We're going to have dinner and then I come back to this. For you, it will obviously only be a few seconds. My shaker element has dried nicely. There is a little bit of static, but it doesn't really interfere with the function of it, and I really, really like it. I think this is just enough. The only thing I noticed though, there is a little bit of thread, I think, from the glue I put down, but it doesn't really matter, and it is almost sealed off. I don't know if the camera catches that, because as I said, there was a bit of a gap, and also the frame is a little bit wider, definitely on that side, than the actual plastic thing, but it's definitely all sealed up, so that's the main thing. On the front, I have just stuck this down. I have put the sentiment on flat here. I could have moved it down a little bit, but I'm fine with that. The little polar bear has found his place, and I've also, just to have this sort of movement upwards, I placed 3 of these snowflakes at the top. I had to cut them out really nicely, because some of these even didn't want to come out properly, just in case you've got the same set, you will notice. But I think that I quite like the fact that I've got the snowflakes here, because when you open the card, this goes then with the inner pattern here, so that'll be fine. So in order to place this in the right place, I'm going to put the snowflakes at the top so I can see the bottom here, the snow hill here, and I'm just getting this straight. I think it's actually fine as it is, and I'm just using a little bit of my low-tack tape. I'm just zooming out just a notch, and I'm just keeping that in place a little bit so it doesn't move about, so that when I open it up it doesn't move, and I can put my glue here on the back. And because I'm working now paper on cardstock, I can actually use my book binding glue. So this one's nearly empty, so I have to be a bit mindful to press a little bit more. I'm not getting too close to the edge because it's a stitch die, and I don't want the glue to go through these holes of the stitches. So when I've got it like this, I'm lifting this up again so it falls hopefully a little bit flat, and then I can close this over it, turn it over, and then press it down, making sure it fits nicely within this frame. And once it has adhered and I know it won't move anymore, I'm usually too impatient, I can open this up and press it down a little bit more, but try not to move it. And then I think that's my card finished. Oh, one thing, just close this just to make sure it doesn't come apart again. I have put the white panel at the back. I suggest you do that first before you adhere the shaker element, because otherwise it will be difficult to stick something down in the back. Yeah, and I think this is really nice. So if I give it a second to dry, I can show you how it stands up. Whilst it was drying, I made one more, I think, improvement, because when I open it up now, I've got a sentiment here at the bottom. I found it needed something to ground the shaker element, and let it snow, I think, is perfect. So this card can actually stand up like this. Obviously you don't have the full snow globe effect then. They've got it when it looks like this, when it's folded like this, but I think this is really cool, and I love the little beads in there rather than having other shaker elements. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I will definitely create some more, because my aim is really to use up these elements, and yeah, I think I will maybe pop in a photo or maybe just a little video snippet of the other cards I'm going to create in the next few days. As always, I'm popping back in because I've got more things to show you. Rather than showing you the finished cards, a few more techniques. So this one here, I filled it a little bit too much. I used these snowflake sequins. Reason being is this one here was the one that had a dent, and I just put 2 sequins here on the edge of that shaker dome, and nobody will know. But because these are on the edge, I decided not to put this one on the inside, so this will just sit on the top. These elements came here with the set, so these are on some rectangles, and I just put some foam tape on the edge here because I've got quite a bit of dimension with the shaker element to basically compensate for that. So I will be putting some glue on here, take the release paper off, and then place this on the front. And I'm taking one of the red sentiment strips here. I've backed it with white, but I will cut this to size and probably round the corners for it to go on the top. The other one here, one thing I wanted to show you is I have, just checking that my camera's focusing, I have backed both these, by the way, with some paper, and because it's paper and not cardstock, I just used my glue stick for the paper. With both these, because they are red here and I chose this red background, I wanted to stay in this sort of cartoony style really, and I've chosen some red cardstock for the background as well. But on the inside I used one of those panels as well. I cut it down a little bit, but that was an afterthought, and in my guillotine I couldn't get close enough to the shaker dome to cut it down to a square. I have already glued it on the back of this, and I thought I'd just let it sort of set like this, but I don't like it. So I just show you a little tip how you can get glue underneath some elements here that are raised. All I do is use some scrap cardstock. I'm using my quick grab glue, which in this case is the magic glue. I could use the cosmic shimmer. And what I do is I put some glue on this strip, and then I can slide this underneath this bit. I only want a little bit on the edges on the corner, so I'm going off camera there, pressing my finger down so that the glue actually comes off that strip, and then I can press this down and this is adhered. Ideally, as I said, you have got some quick grab glue, because the collal would have to hold this down for quite a while. I'm not too bothered about these edges here because I think that is too much dimension, but I will also glue down the top, and I think that gives a neater finish than having them raised. I might need a little bit more glue, but that's a way to get glue underneath elements that are already stuck down.